Money can find me even when I'm a hot mess, right? Money can find me even when I'm so imperfect and dealing with so much of my own inner BS that I am not evaded by money. And that just relaxed my own system, right? It relaxed my system so much when I can feel like I'm available to money even when, right? And if this consciousness of money has this intelligence and this grace, as long as I'm creating this agreement of like, right now I am in intense victimhood and limitation, and I welcome you.
Have you ever thought that money is a consciousness? So today I have kind of an eye-opening conversation with the Money Shaman, AKA Hendrix Black. These are both pen names of this particular person, and he is a really revolutionary thinker about energy and frequency and the consciousness and encoding of money. So if you are really wanting to open up to magnetize more abundance, to heal your relationship with money, this conversation is a must listen to, because he talks about and describes powerful practices that we can all do to transmute our energetics around money in real time. So enjoy the conversation with the Money Shaman. Welcome to Plenty. I'm your host, Kate Northrup, and together we are going on a journey to help you have an incredible relationship with money, time, and energy, and to have abundance on every possible level. Every week, we're gonna dive in with experts and insights to help you unlock a life of plenty. Let's go fill our cups.
Please note that the opinions and perspectives of the guests on the Plenty podcast are not necessarily reflective of the opinions and perspectives of Kate Northrup or anyone who works within the Kate Northrup brand.
Hi.
Hey.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
I love how you just switched that on. That was so cool. Yeah.
Just like, ta-da!
Oh my
Show
goodness.
starting.
If I go from like cold to like a warm hey, like it's going to come out so awkward. It's like, hey. No, that was awesome.
Actually, we had a voice lady on this morning, Tracy Goodwin, and we discussed how within 7 seconds, someone has decided based on your opening, if they trust you, if they feel connected to you, and if you're authentic, and whether or not they would buy from you.
Gosh, no
And
pressure.
so we actually talked about how turning that on that fast and being like, welcome, or whatever is actually probably terrible for business. So that's a whole other conversation.
I know, right?
But anyway,
cool.
So
yes,
welcome to Miami.
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah.
Okay, money. Yeah, so you've been a writer for a long time.
Long time, 20-ish years,
money writing.
Making
20-ish years.
money writing, yes.
Making
correct.
money writing. So you are a professional writer.
Yep.
Have been for 20 years. Started off in screenwriting.
Started off in screenwriting in 2006-ish, I would say. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, been a while.
Okay, so you just had stories in your head and you wanted to write them down, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so I mean, I went more through like a traditional schooling path, marketing, that whole jam. Started working in corporate, and it was in 2006-07. So I had always like been a storyteller, not like a verbal storyteller, right? I was like the quiet kid in the corner. It's like, don't talk to me about anything, right?
Yeah.
But in my alone space bubble, right? It was like nothing but story, nothing but character, nothing but arcs, right? And evolutions and, all these journeys that I wanted to experience in my own body, yet didn't have enough form and enough life to actually live out, right? So I created characters to live these stories out, essentially. And that was always true, right? Like my idea of fun as like a 15-year-old kid was sitting in a coffee shop with like one of my 3 friends and talking about stories, right?
Yeah.
And one day, like when I was like 15 or 16, like me and my friend were talking about stories, right? And we're like, how cool would it be to have a story about this guy who ages in reverse, right? I'm like, I should totally write that. And I didn't. And then in 2006-07, Benjamin Bunn comes out and I'm watching the trailer and I'm like, Hollywood stole it, And of course they didn't. I found out later it was a short story in 1912 from like Scott F. Fitzgerald, right? But in my mind, they stole it. And I'm like, they'll never do that again. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I hated my job, right? Hated my corporate job. And this was kind of like, at the beginning of kind of like 2008-ish when, recession was hitting and layoffs were coming from every direction. And I'm like, I want to get laid off. I want to write screenplays all day. So I started learning how to write scripts, like at the office, like in the cubicle.
Yeah.
And the stories just started flowing. And I wrote my first screenplay, like literally, like while trying to get laid off. And I didn't get laid off, so I just quit and started writing full time right there and then. And I was so naive, and that was such a superpower at that time, right? Like I thought it should be easy. I felt entitled to the ease of course this is going to happen, right? And these rules of it being hard to break in just never felt like they applied. I'm like, that's someone else's game. Like, that's not my game. So I remember like sitting in suburban Montreal, right? Just like getting lists of agents and production companies. And, you know, the first time I saw CAA, which is like the biggest agency there, I'm like, Caw? I'll call Caw. Why wouldn't I call Caw?
Call up Caw.
So I think I literally like called CAA and got the receptionist. I'm like, is this Caw? And, you know, quick hang up. But there was just like such a belief in what I was doing and such a belief in the stories I was telling that I'm like, of course this is going to happen. So within a matter of like 2 or 3 months, I had my first manager in that space. And
Wow.
things just kind of like started, you know, spiraling from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was
Amazing.
Cool. It was so much fun. Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah.
I think that what you're speaking to about just being like, oh yeah, no, this being hard doesn't apply to me.
Right.
That's not going to be my experience is probably why you just took all the actions you took and why it did end up being perhaps easier
Right.
than it might be for someone who has the paradigm that it's going to be hard.
Right. I reflected on that, and I think there was a huge advantage in living in Montreal at the time, right? And not in whatever morphic field is created out of Hollywood screenwriting and what it means to be one and what it means to try to break in as one, right? And I never got exposure to the quote unquote agreements that people make when they play that game, right? Like it just wasn't.
You just didn't know.
It wasn't part of my reality, right?
Beautiful.
So in the agreement I made around a screenwriting career was like, I will write an epic script. I will, you know, write a few agents and producers who would be so fortunate to get their hands on it, right?
Yeah.
And in my mind, they're so lucky, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm giving you the opportunity to read my script, right? Whereas in that ecosystem, you're battling and fighting and jockeying for attention and having this anxious energy about it. And that just wasn't my reality, right? So it was a fun game to play, right? With that level
so much.
Yeah.
So I found you, well, it turns out I knew you before, but I thought that I came across you from your book, Shadow Money, which we have right here, as the Money Shaman. I heard you on Kelly Brogan's podcast.
Yeah.
And I actually had never listened to an episode of her podcast before, but I've known Kelly for a very long time. And her podcast kept being suggested to me.
Okay.
So I was like, well, surely if the podcast app thinks I would like it, maybe I will. So I go in and I see all the episodes and I see the Money Shaman and I'm like, what's this? So I listen, I love the episode, and and then I reached out and got your book at the same time to see if you would come. And I'm curious, but actually now it makes sense given you explaining what you were like at 15. But most people, I don't think, are like, great, let me embody this different identity to write a book.
Right.
How did that happen? And where did the Money Shaman come from?
Gosh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think one major component to it is that for, decades, ever since I can imagine being a human, I've had nowhere to really hang my existential hat, right? Like there's never been a solidity of a claim of I am a screenwriter, right? And I write movies, or I am a copywriter and I write for launches, or I am a relationship coach. Like there's just been kind of this fluidity between roles and what I can embody in every given moment, right? And what I noticed, and I noticed this early on in my screenwriting career, just less consciously, and I did it less intentionally, right? But the name Hendrix Black, which is another one of my pen names, first came to me as a screenwriter, right?
Oh.
And I realized that the way I would write as Ryan Schwartz was very different than how I would write when I put Hendrix Black on a title page, right? And I'm like, there's something to this,
That's
right?
so cool.
Ryan Schwartz is a little bit timid. He takes a little less risks, right? Whereas Hendrix Black seems to just not give a,
Say
right?
it.
Exactly. Just say it. Just go to the places where Ryan Schwartz wouldn't, right? And it wasn't necessarily this alter ego thing. It was what I felt or experienced as this new set of energetic clothing, right? That it would just be there. It wasn't this conscious, intentional thing that I needed to do to be that. It was kind of this energy signature I would just tap into and click into, and I would be that, right? So I guess one thing I learned that still feels very much true as I embody these different roles is different names have different energy signatures that have access to different pools of information, right? So when I'm writing as Hendrix Black, it seems like he has immediate, instant access to insight in certain realms that it just pours through, right? Whether that's in one-on-one client sessions or in book writing, it's just there, right? And same with Money Shaman. So yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
It's interesting because right before you came, I was chatting with a different guest, and she actually started her business under a pseudonym. Because her business is around sexuality,
Right.
and she was working in finance, and she just knew it wouldn't be okay. And she said the same thing, which is that she just suddenly was it
Right.
under the new name, and like there wasn't an issue of like, oh, now I have to unravel all this old patterning and whatever, and I have to find a way to will myself to be. It was just like, nope, when I put on these heels and this outfit and I'm in this name, I am her. The end.
Right. Yeah. It's
so cool.
Because it's not this linear thing where you have to drop a story and change identity, right? It's like,
It's like, and that takes time and therapy and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved in your book, Shadow Money, was this invitation to go all in and do all the practices,
Right.
of course. And that you said, and also, if you don't, it will still change you.
yes, absolutely.
And just that, I was reading it and I was like, gosh, this is audacious. And I love it. And I love it because as a writer, I can feel myself sometimes, and it depends on where I am in my cycle, and it depends on how spicy I'm feeling and all of those things. But I can find myself sometimes backing away from the command or backing away from what I know is true. And what I know is true is that it is true that an energy signature, when you read it and when you engage with a text, is going to change you, even if you don't do the exercise.
100%.
That alone, because there's a, what is that? Like, tell me more.
It's a transmission is really the short way of saying it, right? And if I were to try to break that down scientifically, I would fail miserably, right? But essentially it's this, right? I'm writing from a certain place of awareness, place of consciousness. It's streaming from a source of intelligence that is quote unquote beyond me, but also being embodied through me, right? And a reader is connecting with that, right? So there is an energetic reconfiguration happening through that exchange, right? That's really the simple version of it. And I remember writing that in the book, right? I remember wanting to communicate this sense of inherent relaxedness and ease I was feeling from the consciousness of money, right? Where so many of the teachings that I had consumed in, the manifestation space or the, heal all your shadow space, right? All these spaces always felt like the reward was on the other side of quote unquote the work, right? And that as long as I have these blocks and these beliefs and these agreements and these shadows and these ancestral patterns, I can't be that or I can't have that, right? And that just felt like such an unwinnable game. And even if it were winnable, who is the character playing it within it, right? So I think one of the key messages that I received while writing this book was essentially creating this, I think I called like reality distortion fields, right? Where money can find me even when I'm a hot mess, right? Money can find me even when I'm so imperfect and dealing with so much of my own inner BS that I am not evaded by money, right? And that just relaxed my own system, right? It relaxed my system so much when I could feel like I'm available to money even when, right? And if this consciousness of money has this intelligence and this grace, as long as I'm creating this agreement of like, right now I am in intense victimhood and limitation and I welcome you, right? And you are welcome here, right? It's just a greater, more inclusive, expansive way of operating even as we do the work.
So beautiful. And I don't know if you know that what we do in this company is we teach a program called Relax Money.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the fact that you're using that word is so resonant with me, and anything we can do to find safety and relaxation in our systems is going to be magnetic.
Totally.
To money and everyone else.
Right.
Right. Because we know when we're with someone who's anxious, desperate, hypervigilant, any of those things, like it can be actually quite repulsive energetically. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
At least maybe sometimes we actually can be a match. So maybe, as we change over time, it feels worse and worse. But for money as well, which you talk about, that money is a consciousness.
Right.
So what is money?
Gosh, yeah. So I'm just going to give the most basic definition, right?
Great.
We could say it is we could say that it's an energy of means, right? We could say that it has power. We could say that it is used as currency, as exchange, right? But what I was receiving is those limitations are as limiting as saying a human is a worker, or a human is a producer, or a human is this,
The
right?
mom.
It's undignified to some degree, right? So money is ultimately a consciousness that gets expressed through these ways of operation, right? It is used as a way of value exchange. It is used as a way of, exchanging value, creating value, right? And all these ways are beautiful, but at its core root, I see it and view it and experience it as a consciousness, just like we are seeking healing, resolution, and wholeness, right? And money is on that journey as well, right? There is wounded money. There is money that is more, healed on its journey, and it kind of seeks those stewards who can welcome it with awareness, with consciousness, right? Recirculate it with gratitude, right? And just be aware of what they're working with in that exchange. So
in your concept, when money comes through us and we're relating to it in ways that are not rooted in shadow and projection, right?
Sure.
So ways that are more awake or healthier, more loving, then we actually are shifting the energy of money as it comes through us.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's funny so I was reading this and I was reminded, I had a client who works with big money, like multi-million, $100, $300 million funds. And she's working with people who are billionaires all the time. And, and she comes from money.
Yeah.
And I remember I said to her a couple years ago, I said, because we were just kind of talking about the energy of money and the energy of capital and where it comes from, where it's been, and how I don't know, the word that comes to me is corroded the system has been historically.
Right.
And I said to her, all money is dirty money and it wants to be healed through you.
That's exactly it.
And
You
it was
nailed
so cool to essentially read a similar
Right.
concept. And I was like, then maybe it's true.
Yeah. There you go.
I feel like when people from disparate backgrounds, in different corners of the world come to the same conclusion,
Right.
it must be true.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So did that just drop in for you?
That just dropped in. Yeah.
Where do you remember where you were sitting?
I was working with a client.
Okay.
Right. In a totally different context, right? It wasn't even in let's heal our money stuff context, right? But we were going over her different sources of revenue, right? She had her business revenue that was coming in through, the services she was offering. And she was also working with an inheritance, right? She was dealing with some family stuff, right? And there was some conflict around how much she should be getting, right? And a bit of family turmoil there, right? And it became immediately clear that this money isn't the same as this money, right? This one here has a ton of charge, right? It feels like there's violence within it, right? That as it's arriving with this signature of chaos, right? And is it the money's fault? No, right? But money is of the water element in my belief and experience, and it's highly impressionable to the energies that are projected onto it, right? So when that money is passing through channels with conflict, with anger, with hostility, with senses of victimhood, with senses of control or oppression or all these signatures, money is recrystallizing around these intents, right? And then when it arrives in someone's field, they're relating with something that you could say has certain distortions. And those distortions are going to manifest how they manifest depending on the constitution of that person, right? Whereas this revenue source that was coming from her service was very clean, was very light, right? Her clients were so grateful for the work she was doing. There was this sense that they were getting tremendous value from the work she was doing, and she felt tremendously rewarded for that service, right? That felt pristine, almost like it was life-giving and nourishing. So that's really kind of one of the initial signals I had, right? That like, not all money is the same, right? There are different vibratory qualities to it depending on the journey it's passed through, depending on the intent that has been impressed upon it, right? You can look at a much larger example, that of, lottery wins, right? And there's so much data around, the chaos that often ensues through massive windfalls, right? And there could be a multitude of theories of why that happens, right? And you could look at it through many different lenses. But from my perspective, a lottery is essentially made up of, millions of people who have bought $10, of a ticket with a certain complex of save me, right? Desperation. And there are likewise millions of micro curses when their numbers don't get called, right? That immediate reaction of, I didn't win, and almost cursing the winner of, I would have done something better, I deserved it more, right? So that big pool of money, right, is already encoded with forms of desperation, with anger, with agitation, with even a sense of, I think I call it in the book, financial schadenfreude. I hope they lose it, desiring ill will upon someone who has money. So unless that steward has the capacity to sense into what they're actually receiving beyond a number, right, but the actual energetic construct they're welcoming into their field, and has ways to identify where they may be vulnerable to that, right, their own internal hooks to it, and then their own ways of transmuting that, of course, it's going to generate different forms of chaos. Yeah.
So with your client who was coming into this inheritance that had an energetic signature of chaos or pain or, some money we receive through even traumatic means,
Of course,
how do we then help money to heal in our hands?
Right. So one thing I've noticed is money tends to heal and transmute faster than humans do. Money doesn't form identity around wounding patterns in the same way that humans would, right? Like
similar to animals, really.
Right? Exactly. So money has this desire and this thrust back towards wholeness, and I believe all consciousness does. But money, I think, just elementally will get there faster, right? I think the water experiments, I think it was Dr.
Emoto.
Correct.
I can't remember his first name.
Right.
But yes, Dr. Emoto.
Yeah, similarly, right? He could restructure water with different prayers and different tones and different even kind of vocalizations, right? Really quickly, like how it would restructure
and we all can.
Exactly.
It's not like he's like a magician.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. So if we were to just ground this in practicality, right? Like if one was receiving a sum of money, right? And it could be, from a very common example, of a client, right? I've received this as a copywriter, right? A client hires me and brings me on, and it's a service I offer and a service that client pays for, yet sometimes I'll feel the spike of the save my business, right? Or the spike of this better work, or the spike of all these unconscious, unworded energetics that I'm receiving within it, right?
Oh, I have had that experience.
Yeah, totally. Like $10,000 from one client isn't the same as $10,000 from another.
No, it is not.
Right? And against better judgment, sometimes we'll receive that and we'll ignore it and we'll push it aside and we'll be like, well, this might just be my thing right now. And then inevitably there will be some, amplification of the chaos with that client or that money or something that happens that causes some form of disruption, right? So even in that example, right, if I were receiving, $10,000 that felt energetically unclean, right, there's just a brief moment of like 5 or 10 minutes sitting with that transaction, like literally looking at that transaction on the Stripe screen or on my account, right, and just tuning into its field, right? What am I feeling into here? What am I sensing within this? What is it evoking in me, right? Is it evoking patterns in me that feel like I'm not worthy of that I can't deliver on that the expectation I'm putting out there isn't aligned with what I could actually provide, right? So it's just an opportunity to sit with that and then just witness that money compassionately as a consciousness, right? So I have a process in this book that I've also used in my relationship coaching. I call it just fierce grace shadow witnessing.
Yeah,
right?
so beautiful.
And it's just a matter of operating from this space of fierce grace, not a wounded part that just wants to heal, right? But I call it this space of essentially wide open awareness, pulsating with grace and compassion. So the father principle, the mother principle, and operating from that space and just witnessing what you see, right? Like, I see you're agitated, right? I see you're fearful, right? I see that you come with so much, loaded expectation, right? And just witness it back into wholeness, right? Let it continue revealing its layers and witnessing it in it without trying to fix it, right? Just being there with it.
Yeah.
And what I found, especially with money, is that it just unfurls, right? It unfurls so quickly when you can just witness it in its journey, right? Because how often does money get witnessed, right? Like, humans complain about no one's here to witness us, right? No one's offering us this space, but money, no one's witnessing money, right? Yeah. So the moment you just give it 5 minutes, 10 minutes to be with it and let it reveal its signatures to you, yeah, it's game changing.
I mean, what you're describing is very similar to parenting. Mm-hmm. I find with my kids, we have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, and when one of them is dysregulated, spun out, having big feelings, certainly shaming them, blaming them, trying to suppress that is not the move.
Yeah.
Right? So, and trying to get them to stop is definitely not the move.
Yep.
And trying to fix it, also not the move. So what you're describing, I have seen over and over and over again with my children when I sit with them as regulated as I can manage to get in that moment, and just witness and say, yeah, I see you're scared. I see you're sad. It's okay to be sad. Totally. I mean, we just did it this weekend. I was with my daughter, and we were at Universal Studios, and we were on a carousel, and she, in that moment, realized that all the rest of the group was doing something without her, without us, and she was missing out. And she got so upset, and she started to cry, and she was like, they did it without me, and da-da-da. And I said, yeah, it's sad. They went without us.
Right.
We're on a carousel. You can be sad on a carousel.
Yeah.
And so we were just there, and so fast. She had a cry.
Right.
Within 90 seconds, full joy ecstasy on a carousel.
Totally.
And we were done.
Yeah.
And it was just such a great example of, like, if we can be, I mean, that's parenting, but it's the same with ourselves. Yeah. It's the same. I love that you're bringing this to money.
Yeah.
That we can actually be the healers of money, which is, I find, a tremendous amount of power in that invitation, because so often we're waiting to make a certain amount of money to feel like we can be a certain way, or we're waiting to heal a certain amount before we can X, Y, Z. And it's like, no, I have complete and total agency.
For sure.
And I can contribute as the bestower of grace, fierce grace to money.
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool.
Totally.
And a big turnaround.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you do it, right? Like, money is flowing through our experience at all times, right? Like, literally a few minutes before coming here, right, I was at this, like, really awesome little coffee shop. Like, I don't know if you've noticed the one.
I'll have to ask you which one.
With the airplane, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you order in an airplane.
I think it's called airplane coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
the best.
Exactly. So I walk in there and I'm like, this is cool. I'm in an airplane, even though I was in an airplane yesterday, right? And,
but very happy it wasn't a coffee shop.
I'm like, why am I so happy to be in this airplane right now? I hate being in airplanes. But I'm in that coffee shop, right? And I'm appreciating the creativity that goes into that. I'm like, honoring someone had this concept, they brought it to fruition. How freaking awesome, right? And then I'm at the cash, I'm paying for this coffee, and that's a sacred exchange, right? Money is moving, right? So in that brief second, it's honoring money, like, thank you for partaking in this transaction, thank you for empowering this experience here, right? And it's blessing it for the next recipient, right? It's like honoring them for what they're providing, right? And it's like, we have dozens of these opportunities every day, right? To thank the money flowing through us and blessing it as it moves forward, right? And if you were to view or take on the concept of money as an evolving consciousness, much like how a human will no longer be available for certain types of behaviors as it grows in consciousness and awareness. And it's like, hell no, I'm not available for that type of relationship anymore, right? If you can take on the same concept with money and see money as an evolving consciousness that may be increasingly more available towards stewards who would honor it, who would be in right relationship with it, who would bless it and recirculate it with grace and love, then I think it also begs to, it also suggests that that person will be more open to receiving more sums, right? And more capacitated to actually create these harmonious flows, right? Everywhere they go. So I don't know. I tend to appreciate that.
I love that.
Concept. Yeah.
What about for folks who really are feeling like money is the problem?
Yeah.
Or like, I'm just not good with money. So I'll tell you a specific example that comes up in our work.
Of course.
I am a firm believer that financial stewardship is one of the primary ways to create an abundant life, where the way to feel like it's finally enough is to beautifully care for what we already have,
Love that.
as well as earn more. But many of our people think the way to create a sense of enough is to make more.
Right.
And that can be part of it. But I start with, what are you doing with what you already have, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And what I hear from our clients sometimes is, I'm just not good at that, or that feels boring, or I have other more exciting, interesting things to do, and I don't have time for that. So I'm just curious, like, what would be your response to that particular projection or pattern of avoidance, because we're like, it's boring, it doesn't actually sound that fun.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess, like, first off, with compassion, right? I've certainly been there, right? I've certainly been in the thrill of generating versus the, perceived monotony of tending to, right? So I've been there, right? And I'll just be very clear about it. The moment I started tending to what was already in my presence, right? Being very mindful of what was in my account, how those bundles were being stewarded, what was meant for what purpose, right? Getting very intentional about that, very directed, and creating clear containers and intentions for my money, my income grew, right? Like, it just did, right? Rather than having avoidance here and thrill seeking here, right? Which is a very unsustainable way of operating.
That was perfect.
There we go, right? So I think, like, going deeper in that conversation, tuning into the avoidance, what are we afraid of seeing, right? Is there an avoidance because it's boring? Is there an avoidance because we believe we should be further along? Is there an avoidance because we don't want to get clear about how, quote unquote, irresponsible we've been and shame ourselves for that, right? So I think the more honest we could be about those various layers of avoidance, the quicker we can progress through it. And once again, this is where that inner stance of fierce grace is so important, because you're not going to do that work through the lens of your inner judge, right? And your inner critic, who's just going to berate you and beat you over the head with it, right? But it's like, I see you're ashamed of, how you've circulated money. I see that you wish you did things better, right? Like, getting clear on all these elements that are going into that avoidance, I think, is massive, right? And massively important.
Can you describe more about fierce grace? One of the things I love that you said is that many places that we learn about shadow work, it is said that shadow work requires courage. And you're like, not really. So share why courage doesn't really feel like the word for you.
I remember, I think it was probably around like 7 years ago when I first got into shadow work. And I remember doing a session with someone who was pretty renowned in the men's space around it, right? And we were doing a session. At one point, he's like, I so appreciate your courage for going there. And I'm like, what? Like, that doesn't track, Like, I almost don't feel like I was courageous, right? Like, and then I kind of zoomed out and I'm like, I think we're operating from different places here in this work, right? Like the space of fierce grace, the way I see it, right, is like I am already transparent to all that is. I can hide that stuff if I wanted to, right? Like whatever it is you believe sustains life and animates you into existence, you're already transparent to it. It already sees all that there is to see.
Yeah.
Right. So if you could slip into that place, right, and you know you are already loved and upheld and supported by that current or that field, however you want to define it, courage isn't necessary there, right? Courage to me is what comes online when there's also this fear. It's part of that polarity, right? And what parts of you would be quote unquote afraid as it's going through shadow work? It's typically the part that I refer to as a shadow suppressor, the part that feels like if this was seen and known to the world, I would be abandoned, condemned, judged, beaten, like all the things, right? And once again, we have compassion for that part, right? We certainly hold that part within this field of fierce grace as well, but we don't let it run the show, right? It's not leading that charge of shadow work. Another way I think I like to put it is like all parts get a seat at the table, but they don't get to host the dinner, right?
Yeah.
It's like who hosts the dinner, right? So that's kind of a question to sit with.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
One thing that comes up is this feeling for women specifically of, well, I just want to be in my feminine. And somehow there's an idea that being in our feminine is antithetical to dealing with money
Right.
in a conscious way,
Sure.
right? Can you just like riff on that? The masculine and the feminine. And I mean, obviously we all have masculine and feminine in us, but in our community specifically is primarily women.
For sure.
And there can be this like goddess, I just want to be in my feminine, which can lead to limpness in terms of like, now I have no structure and I'm all flow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. In my experience, money requires masculine containment itself, right? That is literally what an account is.
Yes.
It is saying you can be received here,
You're gonna
right?
put it here.
And I have a plan for you, right? I have a strategy for you. I'm going to care for you, right? So if I see money itself mostly as a feminine force, right? Water element, it flows through, it needs containment, it lands within containment, and then you choose how it gets contained, right? Like, you know, I'm not going to abandon you in this dark corner of an account that I never check, right? I'm going to have you here in this high interest savings account where I know you are expanding and flowing and doing your thing, or I'm going to allow you to play in this high yield, maybe riskier, you know, territory here, right? And do your thing, right? You know, have fun, right? So yeah, in my view and experience, money itself does need masculine containment. So that is one part of the conversation, right? And it doesn't mean a woman who wants to be like 99% of her life and her feminine needs to be the one creating that containment, right? She can certainly hire people for that or have a partner, a spouse, right, who cares for that and creates that containment. The next part of that conversation, right, I would suggest is like how that money gets received and generated, right? So money itself could be feminine, but it doesn't mean that the way of generating it, right, or receiving it needs to be all masculine or all feminine, right? And here I see, you know, countless ways to receive money, right? Or to generate it or to welcome it in. Some are more feminine oriented, some are more masculine oriented. I see typically, you know, 4 ways of money receivership, right? Value exchange is the one we're most familiar with, right? I create this product, this service, and sell it, right? That's one way, right? And the one, I'd say that's the way that most people are most comfortable with, right? And I'd say that's trending towards a more masculine way of receivership, right?
I produce, I get paid.
Totally, exactly. But there's also, you know, investment opportunities, right? Which is like money expands, it multiplies, right? Through who are you within that exchange? You're kind of relaxed. You're kind of letting money do its thing and you're trusting in that, right? So that is more of a feminine way of receiving.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I think about that. I have never thought about it this way before, except for in this moment. But I think about it like pregnancy, where it's like you really don't have to do anything, and you
Right.
just end up making a human.
Totally.
Wild.
Incredible.
Very similar
right?
to investment.
Yeah. And
Where
look
you
at-
you put the seed, you put the money
Right.
in there, and then it just
yeah.
grows.
And then some folks will like feel like they need to overly manage it, right? Because they want to feel like they have some more
Right.
active of a role, right? And this goes into deservedness, right? You know, that it's
Right.
that I don't deserve it unless I worked for it, unless I bled for it, unless I did something.
Right.
Right.
I have to have suffered a certain
worth
amount.
wounds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, another way of receivership. And you can have a business partner or a life partner that is far more open in one of these wealth channels than another. And it's beautiful when two partners are particularly open in different directions, right? So I could be amazing at creating value and exchanging value, right? And my partner might be incredible at receiving flows of pure generosity or pure fortune, right? And life just continuously works in her favor, right?
Yeah.
And how beautiful. That's no less valid or more valid than my way, right? Generosity is a whole other conversation, being open to that. Fortune is another one. What is a natural limit to how lucky one can be before they feel like they're going to get attacked for being lucky and fortunate, right? Yeah. But yeah, there's literally countless ways one can receive. Some are more feminine oriented, some are more masculine oriented. And I think just really being honest about how one wishes to receive and how one feels most predisposed towards receiving and playing with it, but also knowing that you have containment for where that money, flows into.
And I'm curious your opinion. You said, okay, well, you could absolutely be, 99% more in that feminine flow, but there does need to be those containers, which I completely agree with. And how much do you think we need to actually build, maintain, be aware of those containers ourselves? Because something I see is avoidance can continue by being like, my husband's handling that, or like I pay somebody for that, instead of actually being engaged with our own resources.
Totally. Yeah. Sometimes I will look at an account just to say hi to the money, right? Like that's it. Like not even necessarily tracking, was it up 2% or down this, but just like, hey, what's up? Good to see you, right? Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing to express yourself. Thank you for expanding and contracting and doing the things you do, right? And just even tuning in, right? Like, how are you feeling? That's it. Kind of how I would relate to a really good friend, right? Just being there, checking in. How are you? Right? I think for what money provides in our lives, right? Just having a sense of connection to it frequently, right? And not this dismissal of someone else will take care of it, which always has the undertone of I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
Right.
Like imagine if that, back to parenting.
For sure.
Right? Like if I only had someone else caring for my children,
Right.
I would not have a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
Right? So same. Or if I had someone else going on dates with my husband,
Right.
like
Yeah.
I wouldn't, like I'm not going to outsource
Yeah,
that.
you can't outsource relationship, right?
Right.
So it's really,
Right.
it really comes back down to, do you subscribe to the paradigm where money is relational or not, right? And if you believe it is, and if it feels more true and life affirming and enriching and expanding for it to be relational, then just take those basic steps towards making it relational, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your experience and in your work, because you work with couples as well, with your pen name Hendrix Black, yes,
Correct. Yes.
just in case people want to check out that work.
Yeah.
What are the overlaps that you see between life force energy, eros, and financial energy, the consciousness of money?
Yeah. Big question.
I mean, that's like a whole,
For sure, right? I will start off by saying, right, that like in my experience on working on both sides, how we relate to our partner, right, has a disproportionate effect on our deservedness and receptivity field, right? And to put it more bluntly, right, if I, for example, didn't believe my partner was worthy of receiving that which she desires to receive, then she's going to carry that sense of deprivation. She's going to feel that deprivation for me, and that's going to resonate through her field. So I think on the couples level, before we even get into circulating eros and pleasure and capacity to actually feel it run through our bodies, right? First, we have to get clear, right? Do I truly, if I'm being absolutely honest with myself here, desire the world for my partner? Do I want to see him or her in their fullest expression of life and joy and pleasure? Do I truly believe they're deserving of that? And when I ask people this, the answer is typically at first, of course, right? Yeah. Why wouldn't I? Because I'm supposed to, and I want to, and I'm a good husband or I'm a good wife, right? Then I'm like, in the safety of this conversation, is that 100% true or 50% true, right? Then you start kind of like getting into that murkier territory, right? Of how many couples still have some level of unchecked resentment, right? And unchecked feelings of, I didn't get what I want, so they can't get what I want, or I gave up what I wanted. So I'm kind of on board them getting what they want, but not all the way, right? And I think one very clear question that any listener can ask themselves, is A, do you know what your partner or spouse wants more than anything in the world? To feel, to receive? Do you know the answer to that question? And B, if they experienced it, how would you feel in witnessing them? I think just those two questions can reveal a ton of information that's
really good.
May be very affirming of your relationship or give you really clear insight of things you can take a closer look at that can totally take your relationship to a new level within the next few months. Because, we have these wounded parts and identities that have gone through, in some cases, hell with our partners, right? And they leave certain imprints and they're not permanent, but it's our job to, get clear there.
Yeah, 100%. So what about when we bring money into the conversation with partnership? That's one of the greatest sources of pain for people is money in relationship, but it's also a great source of possibility.
Of course, yes.
So tell me about your ideas around the energy of money and the parallels or lack thereof with those energies and pathways of pleasure and desire.
Sure. Yeah. I'll say this, right? When I was single and alone, right? It was a lot easier to essentially quote unquote manifest more money at will, right? It was linear, right? When you're in a partnership, especially an intimate relationship, you're now in a shared field, right?
Yes.
Your partner's stuff is within your field and you're just kind of doing this dance, right? And you might feel particularly open and you might have a single conversation with your partner about budgeting and it feels like it just deadens the room, right? And you're like, I'm trying to be magnetic and open and you're talking about why we shouldn't buy $12 almond butter from Whole Foods. This is not it, right?
Not a real example.
Right? I'm like, we're downgrading to peanut butter now, right? And if I see almond butter, so you are in these shared fields, right? And these exchanges leave certain imprints around what is this capacity of receivership within my family, within my primary spousal relationship, right? So to that end, right, sexual energy is incredible. Eros is incredible to circulate because that is not this linear calculated thing, right? It gets you out of this called scarcity, right?
Right, because there's not a certain amount of erotic energy we have every month, and we have to budget it in it's endless.
Totally.
It's infinite.
It's infinite, right? So being in practice, right, of how much can you receive here? How much can we generate? How much can we enjoy? Not as work, not as a manifestation practice, as an expression of my love and your love and my desire and your desire. But I think within that, cultivating, there's some, can we go into practices here?
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. Right.
Yeah.
So I think cultivating a field of co-generosity is massive in that realm, right? Of desiring for your partner to feel ecstatic and loved and pleasured and all these things, right? And doing so for no other reason than wanting to experience them in that joy, right?
Totally.
Reminding them that this isn't a trade and I'm going to get mine after and blah, 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 right? But just like, how much can we cultivate this field of open generosity, of relishing in each other's pleasure and joy, right? And all the different forms and expansions that could take. I think that has such a powerful magnetic pull when it comes to finances.
Totally. And what you're describing, which I've never thought about, is sort of like financial, we could practice financial compersion.
Right.
And so for those who don't know, compersion is when you literally get off on your partner feeling pleasure.
Right.
And I think we probably all can find that in ourselves because I mean, I certainly know that like when Mike's really happy, I'm really happy. And that's like an incredibly simple example of it. And there are layers, and I think all of us are wired differently. But I wonder, I wonder, and it's something I'm going to play with, if we can, not only in practicing that with our partner around erotic energy and physical pleasure, but also like how much can we begin to wire ourselves to practice that also financially with that field of generosity. And one thing that we've talked about in Relax Money, I don't know what I call it, but I'm going to start calling it financial compersion as of today.
Yes.
But it's this like transference of the difference between seeing someone else thrive and thinking, because they're having that means I can't have it.
Right.
And instead experiencing it not as evidence that I can have it too, but as literally witnessing someone having something and allowing ourselves to experience physically that we are having it too. And this happened to me with two specific girlfriends, witnessing them mothering, because I did not have a wonderful experience in my first year of motherhood. It was hard at best, traumatic for sure. And yet I witnessed them and they were like, and this was years later, and they were clearly they were having a hard time too, because just having a baby is hard. But they were in ecstasy on some level, like living their deepest joy. And I just was like, I'm going to watch their Instagram stories. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to receive this as going back in time and on an energetic level, getting to have it as 5 years ago, Kate.
Right.
And I do think it changed me.
Yeah. What a practice.
It
that
was
is a
cool.
good use of social media.
Yeah, it was great use of social media.
That is a book. Jeez.
Maybe it is. But what you were saying about expanding that field of generosity, but I don't think it's about like, oh, they're having it and I'm not. It's almost in the melding of unity where it's like you're having it, therefore I'm having it.
You nailed it. That's exactly it, right? There's no self-abandonment in it, right?
No.
It is full in of itself, right? Yeah.
It's not selflessness in any way.
No.
It's like the more we allow that person to have it, the more we get to have it.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's cool.
So that is a huge practice, right? In all the forms, right? Including, I love your social media version of it. Another aspect of that I think is so simple yet powerful, especially for couples. Like there are so many gifts available when you are in partnership, right? For creating these fields. I don't have a good name for this one. Maybe you could give it a better name because you're like in naming phase, right? But for lack of a better word, like desires fulfilled, right? Like if you shared with your partner, right, on a Friday night, like over the next month, I would love to experience the reality where, right? And it could be erotic or it could be non-erotic, right? It could just be
a fun date night question.
This experience that you really want to have, right? And over the next few weeks or the predetermined time period, your partner gets to create the conditions for that experience, gets to create that experience for you, right? And even if in your moment of claim, right, you feel those parts of you that are like, ooh, this might be asking too much, because there's always that edge, and that's good, right? Invite that edge, right? Can I take up this much space? Is this a burden? Am I asking too much while they're already doing so much, right? So allow all that to be present, right? It's not about avoiding all these parts that have a say. It's about including them and then having the experience. Or even with that, even with the quote unquote limitation, it could still manifest, and it still does manifest. And over time, over the course of a year, right? If you each have, one claim per month, right? That's 24 experiences that would have previously felt out of reach or unavailable for an abundance of reasons. And you will have cultivated this expectation that what I desire and claim happens.
That is so good.
Yeah. And you get to have fun along the way, right? It's like,
what a cool practice.
Totally.
Okay, we're definitely doing that.
Yeah.
That's great. And, you know, and for anyone listening where money is an area that they're wanting to cultivate more expansion, some of these could be somewhat related to money healing in whatever way, you know, And also just the wiring of permission, you know, stoking the fire of permission to imagine possibility, because those pathways can go dormant.
Totally.
But as soon as we let something flow there again, they come back alive, I would imagine, pretty quickly. Similarly to how money, like you said, does transform quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is about patience with your partner, right? That first time, right? If someone hasn't claimed something for themselves in a while, right? It could be like, oh, I don't know. I just want something simple. Let me
a cup of warm tea in bed.
Right?
Yeah, which sounds nice.
It sounds so good. Now that you say it, I'm like, that.
Totally.
That every month. That. Yeah. A massage and tea, right? That's all I need, right?
Best.
Yeah. But gently and compassionately allowing them to safely expand, right? Like it could be as simple as saying, I'm available for more, right? I'm available to meet you in whatever that claim is, right? Nothing is too much. You're perfect as you are, right? Like just these reminders to warm up that space. Not like a business meeting. It's like, so what do you want to experience this month, right? Let's get it on the calendar. I'll send you a Google invite, right? We'll get it done. Yeah. Although that might have its own appeal.
Might have its own. Totally.
Now that I said it, I'm like,
actually.
when I use the Texan accent, it kind of works. Yeah.
I don't know. Like one of my love languages actually is a calendar invite.
Right, totally. So, yeah.
You give me a calendar invite and reservations, and I'm like,
I think I was feeling your enjoyment of the Google Calendar, and I'm like, I'm saying this like a bad thing.
I'm married to a Virgo. Yeah. I love a plan. I love being directed. Yeah. I'm all about it.
I'm a Virgo.
Oh, really?
Ask me how I like the kitchen,
birthday?
right? No dishes anywhere.
Amazing.
Just, August 26th. Yeah.
Love that.
But yeah, like that desires fulfilled practice, that's going to be promptly renamed by the time this podcast comes out.
But I actually really like it. I don't know. I mean, just to reflect back.
Yeah.
That felt good.
Right.
Like, because who doesn't want to do a desires fulfilled practice? Totally. I don't know that
All
one.
Right.
It feels
Maybe
yummy.
The name will stick.
Maybe it will. Maybe it will. Okay.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, I know today on the day of the recording, though not on the day this is released, you have a new book out.
Correct. Yes.
It is called
Conversations with Money.
Conversations with Money.
Yeah.
And it is the precursor to this volume, Shadow Money, right?
Yep. Exactly. So before I wrote this one, right, I was getting all the downloads, right?
How do these I just need to know, like, are you sitting in the woods? Do you meditate? Gosh. What's happening? Are you making eggs?
No, I am making eggs.
Okay.
I am in the gym, right?
Okay.
Like there's a reason I don't have a vlog because it's really just me in the gym or me making eggs. Literally those two things. You just like encapsulated 95% of my life. Yeah. So initially, these downloads were happening in client sessions that had nothing to do with money, but everything to do with money, right? And then I found myself giving guidance that felt outside the norm of something that, quote unquote, Ryan or Pendrix would be sharing, right? Sharing like, this money flow in your life has certain encodings of vengefulness in it, right? It's like,
of vengefulness.
Vengefulness, right? This money is encoded to, disrupt this relationship or that, right? So it's like this information was coming through in those directions. And then outside of those client sessions was more of the kind of like overarching paradigms within this book, right? Money as consciousness, money as the water element, money as coming in through 4 different primary channels, right? Of value exchange, of investment, of fortune, right? So all these bits of information started piecing together between these client sessions, more in like just that private alone time, running on the treadmill or running around the gym, right? Whatever it was. So I started transcribing them, mostly verbally audio, because I'm not a scribe. right? What a weird job scribes must have had back in the day, right? Literally walking around with a felt pen. Yeah. And that became kind of the source material for shadow money, light money, and love money, which are still to be released.
Forthcoming.
And I wasn't planning on releasing the big one, Conversations with Money. I'm like, this is a big editing job to sense make all these notes, right? And then more recently, it just felt really important to not just have all that information in one book, right? Because the 3 volumes are shorter. This one really encapsulates everything up to now, but also have it be more formatted from that source that I was receiving it, right? So that the reader can connect with what I'm connecting with there, right? Versus just my writing as the Money Shaman.
So good.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
And I want to say, as we wrap up here, just like I'm aware of, for folks listening who have creative urges, you being here is evidence. You also said, actually this book is coming out today, and I don't do big like hoopla, whatever. I do my work and then I do my thing with it.
Right.
And there's infinite permission in that, because I think that, at least in my industry, there is a tendency to hold back on our creations because there's like an idea of, I'm not far enough along yet. I don't have a big enough platform. I don't want to do, I'm having a baby. I can't do a lot.
Right.
And you being here is evidence of you getting the download, writing the thing. I don't know how you ended up on Kelly's podcast, but regardless. And then it's like in the world, and here we are. So really trusting that these messages, if they're coming through you, their time has come, and they have a destiny of their own.
Ooh, I got chills when you said that. They have a destiny of their own. That's good. Yeah. And they do, right? They absolutely do. I totally believe in, strategic immediacy, right?
Yeah.
So it's not this total blind, I'm just going to put it out there and whatever, right? It'll take on
you
a life
obviously
of its
know how
own,
to market it. Right.
Yeah. And at the same time, my first book under Hendrix Black was called The 7 Initiatory Fires of Modern Manhood. Terrible title. It's such a mouthful, right? So hard to recommend. It's like, I can't even say it.
But The Secret Lives of the Men You Love, I have on my bedside, and that is a great title.
Number 1
Isn't
in
that what
erotic
it's called?
poetry right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Never thought I would have a number 1 in erotic poetry.
Nice.
Right?
Love that.
And it's on my mom's coffee table. So, yeah. Before she even read a word.
So good.
But yes, similar story, right? It's like the immediacy of putting out what you've created and then allowing it to have a life of its own while also being strategic and stewarding it within the world, right? I do not like delay at all, right? By the time I released my first book, when it came time to market it, I'm like, I'm over it, right? Like I don't want to be on a podcast sharing these ideas that were true to me 2 years ago, right? That felt inauthentic.
I know.
And
that's
I remember
the world of traditional publishing.
I know, and it's weird.
It's tricky.
And I did promote it, but it felt like a performance. And it was a performance to some degree, right? So I totally believe in these creative pursuits, finding their place in the world as soon as, they're ready to be revealed.
So cool.
And then allow them to kind of grow and expand and steward it. So, yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
Thank you for this conversation. So
Thank
if
you.
people want to connect, learn more, buy your books, follow your work, where should they go?
Gosh, so at Hendrix.Black on Instagram, at
Hendrix with an X.
X, yeah. At Money Shaman Official for Money Shaman work. All the books are on Amazon. So, yeah.
Amazing. Cool. We'll put everything in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you again for being here. This was so fun.
Yeah. Loved it. Thank you so much.
What if managing money felt effortless? You've worked so hard to earn money, so why does it feel stressful? Well, I want to introduce you to something brand new that I've created called the Money Reset, because abundance starts in your body, not in your bank account. This free audio experience will help you rewire your nervous system for wealth, stop the money in, money out cycle, and create a foundation for true wealth, and relax into a new relationship with money. Plus, it comes with the 5-minute calm cash flow ritual, so you can have financial clarity and magnetism anytime you want. All you need to do to get the free money reset is go to katenorthrup.com/reset.